morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio, so today we're going to be looking at Pokemon trading cards that could make you rich. Now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, these are ones you are unlikely to have in that box of old Pokemon cards up in the attic, but these ones are so rare, they are literally worth tens of thousands of pounds/dollars, depending what currency you're working in. It is almost ridiculous how much they're worth. I don't want to do a ranking yet because it's really difficult figuring out the actual value. Some of these cards have come to auction, some haven't, etc. But let's just look at some Pokemon cards that could make you full-on rich. Now, the card which is often quoted as the most valuable, most expensive Pokemon card in the world is the Illustrator Pikachu. Now, one of these did actually come to auction in 2016, and it sold for $54,970, which according to the website mirror.co.uk at the time equated to £44,068. So why is this card so gosh darned expensive? Well, there's a Japanese magazine called Korokoro Magazine, which held 3 art competitions, which awarded this card essentially to the winners, and I believe there were 35 of them given out in total. But of course, these are 35 cards given out to children who win an art competition. Yeah, needless to say, several of these cards got trashed pretty quickly, so let's just say there aren't many around in good condition. The estimate is that there's about 10 of these in good condition remaining. Fun fact, they are the only card that says Illustrator at the top, whereas most of them say Trainer. It is the only card that actually has a pen symbol in the bottom right-hand corner, and it's one of the very few double-star rarity cards over in Japan. It's a very expensive card, and unless you won a Japanese competition when you were a child, or you pay tens of thousands of dollars for this, you probably don't have one. Now, if we're looking for the most expensive card that you might actually have lying around, though it is a long shot, how about Shadowless First Edition Base Set Charizard? Now, the thing is, right, that when the base set came out, there was a first edition. The first X number of boxes were stamped with first edition. But the first few of those, there was a printing error whereby they were shadowless. There should be a little shadow cast by the border around the card, and at that particular time, there wasn't. So if you think that the first edition are rare, then you add in the shadowless version, and quite frankly, it gets even worse. Then, of course, add in the fact it's Charizard. Charizard has always been the most popular Pokemon in terms of cards. It's always been the, quote, rarest card around, which means people aren't trading them. It means people are running out to buy them, which means that even compared to your regular first edition shadowless cards, these ones are even rarer still. According to an article on mentalfloss.com, a mint, as in 10 graded card, was sold for $12,000. Now, a quick thing about values here. You need PSA graded cards. That essentially is where you send the card off to a company. The company assesses the value of it and gives it a score from 1 to 10. If you've got a 4, that ain't going to be worth much. If you've got a 10, it will push the value up. A 10 graded first edition shadowless base set Charizard will fetch about $12,000. It's a very, very expensive Pokemon card. But it's not as rare or expensive as pre-release Raichu. Now, when I was researching this video, I did see someone had put a picture of this pre-release Raichu from Arceus, which is worth like a few quid at the most. It's not worth very much at all. But that's not the one we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen. You see, pre-release Raichu is Raichu from the base set. And it wasn't a pre-release promo card. Now, we don't know exactly what happened here. Now, some people think they were made deliberately and given out to staff members, but the more credible story seems to be that there was a Jungle Clefable, which was a real pre-release card, being produced and stamped with pre-release as a little logo. And when Pokemon cards are made, they're made on giant sheets. And a couple of Raichu inadvertently ended up on one of those sheets and got stamped with the pre-release logo, at which point they then would have been given out to staff, etc. Wizards of the Coast, who at the time would make in the cards, they have publicly denied that these cards even exist, but, you know, we've seen pictures. Now, according to a forum over at e4.proboards.com, there was a pre-release Raichu, which was sold for $10,500, and it is, as far as we know, the only publicly sold pre-release Raichu card. It is real. Here's the problem. It's quite easy to take a regular Raichu and just give it a pre-release stamp and call it a pre-release Raichu. There are a bunch of fakes of this card doing arounds, ladies and gentlemen, which kind of sucks, but as it stands, very, very rare. But you want rare? How about Master's Key? This was a card which was only released in Japan and is often referred to as Master Key. That is wrong. It is actually Master's Key, according to Bulbapedia, who are pretty good with this kind of thing. And it was given out to 17 qualifiers for the World Championships in 2010 from Japan. Now, it was giving out to 17 qualifiers in a trading card game, who got it in a red case with the trading card game logo on, and 17 were given to video game qualifiers who got it in a blue case with the Heart Gold and Soul Silver logos printed on. There are only 34 of these in the world. I could not find a value for this in terms of it being publicly sold, but it's a Japanese card that was given out to 34 people. There are 34 of these available in the world. Let's just say that it's not going to be a cheap card. If you want one of these, you're going to have to pay a few pennies for it. Now, one thing that was very cool and led to some very rare cards was the TV Tokyo variety show 64 Mario Stadium, who held a best photo contest in May 1999 based in the video game Pokemon Snap. And what you had to do was take candid photos of these Pokemon in their natural environment in the game. And the best 5 entries were printed onto reprints from Expansion Pack. Now, we don't exactly know how many of these there are running around. It's not actually clear how many there were. We do know that they sell for a huge amount of money. Now, according to a thread over at e4.proboards.com, there were actually 20 copies of these, and they were all given to the winner of the competition, i.e. when you won, you got given 20 copies of the card, which creates this weird situation where there's this proper Pokemon card, properly produced, and you've got the only 20 copies in existence. I like to think that I would have waited there for years and years and years, and then just sold one of them, like now, just to see how much it would sell for. You're talking well over £10,000 for one of these cards. I don't think anyone's got a complete set, but if they do, kudos to them. Now, the Pokemon Tropical Mega Battle was a tournament that used to be held every year from 1999 through 2001 and was essentially the precursor to the Pokemon World Championships, but with much lower attendance. You'd be talking 50 people competing rather than a few hundred that we have nowadays. And in 2001, there are 12 cards that were made, well, one card of which 12 copies were made, and distributed to players at the event. And nowadays, you will pay up to $10,000 for them. It's a little bit expensive, but then again, there's only 12 of them out there. And I could not do this video without giving a quick shout out to the number 1, number 2, and number 3 trainer cards. You see, every year at the World Championships, if you come 1st, 2nd, or 3rd, you get a special trading card, which says that you came 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. And these, I mean, I've heard them to sell as little as 5,000. I've anecdotally heard that they've sold for as much as 20,000. These things tend to be sold through private sales because it's easy to know who has these cards. Now, I've heard, and again, this is very unofficial, I've heard that Japanese players generally don't sell their number 1, 2, and 3 cards. But what collectors can do is find out who won, generally from European or North American countries, and then hit them up on social media or whatever to try and buy their cards. That's how the majority of these end up being sold. Needless to say, even within a particular year, you've got 6 copies of each. Masters, Juniors, Seniors, Trading Card Game, and Video Game. That's not very many. Trying to get a number 1, number 2, and number 3 from every year is basically impossible. And on years where it's predominantly Japanese players winning, it becomes even harder to get hold of these cards. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's ridiculous. According to Ranker.com, the most expensive is actually from the 4 winners of the very first Japanese Pokemon card game official tournament, which looks a little bit like this. But again, these cards don't get sold, so we'll never know the exact value of them. And there we go, ladies and gentlemen. There's other cards we could look at, and I might make a video about them quite soon. And there are some cards, especially in Japan lately, that have been released in very low numbers that could give these ones a run for their money. But for now, I hope you enjoyed looking at a bunch of Pokemon cards that, if you happen to have them sitting around, could make you legitimately wealthy. For now, make sure you like this video and then tell me what you think about these cards. Tell me which one of these cards do you most want, which one of these do you covet. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but remember the rule. Be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGradio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, then head on over to patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.